Greetings, people of YouTube. I am Banjo, and this is going to be my first full-length video. I just wanted to let you know that the Opal video is probably not going to be uploaded due to some strange copyright reason. So I'm sorry about that, but thankfully I have other videos planned. So stick around. But today I just wanted to finally get a video out there, and so since it's only been a couple days into 2025, I figured it's not too late to do a book recap video. So I'm going to be basically telling you about every book I read in 2024. Sound cool? I don't know. My other favorite YouTubers were doing this. I figured, why not? Unlike some people who read like 150 books this year, I read not 150 books this year. That'll be very evident, as you can tell by the length of this video. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to pull up one of the books, talk about it for a second, what I liked, what I didn't like, and that'll be it. The first book that I read in 2024 was Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy, and this has been such an influential book in my life. It's one of the reasons that I wanted to make video essays. There's so much to unpack in this book. It is so good, and like, how have you not read this book yet? It is so good. The second book I read this year was All Quiet on the Western Front. Now, I had to read this for school, but I was fine with it because, I had to do a World War I project, and I decided to do it on this book, so it wasn't like I was being forced to read it. I genuinely enjoyed this book. It wasn't my favorite read out of the year, but it was fun. I liked it. I like how it shows how World War I affected everybody. Because this book is about a young German soldier, and a lot of people really didn't feel sympathy for the Germans because, you know, if you know your history, you know. But it wasn't, not everybody wanted to fight in the war, but some were forced to. And this is the story of Paul Baumer, a man who was willing to fight in the war, but towards the end of it, he was regretful. And it is such an incredible story. You see his shift of his enthusiasm for him and his friends to go, and they think it's such a great thing to fight for their country as they've been told, but they finally get out there and they realize the true horrors of what war is actually like. And it's such a good book, and I really, really liked it. This is a book that I was actually forced to read for school, but it turned out to be one of my favorite books that I read this year. That would be Same Kind of Different as Me by Ron Holland and Vermore. This book is the story of a man who grew up in slavery, and then he lived homeless for many, many years until he met a richer man who sold paintings for a living. And although it took them a while, they finally grew to know each other more. And then they became really good friends to the point where they considered each other family. And it's such a good, compelling book. It's based on a true story, and I totally recommend it. You could read it in a day. It's like 200 pages. Up next is one of the most important books in history. It's considered a classic for a reason, and it's very important, especially in this day and age. That would be 1984 by George Orwell. This book is so good. I will tell you that my favorite part was the final sentence. That is the single best part of the book because it really hammers home the message that it's trying to tell. It's so good. Like, how have you not read it yet? And I'm going to say that for a couple of books, but this one especially. It's so important. I read quite a bit of McCarthy this year, and so up next, All the Pretty Horses by Cormac McCarthy. This book was fine. It was incredibly slow for me, but that seems to be the case for quite a few books that I've read this year. It takes me a while to actually appreciate the book that I read, and I realized this story was actually very good. I might do a longer video about it in the future, but if you want to know more about it before you're dead set on getting into it, go to William Dozer's channel. He's one of my favorite YouTubers. He does a very good job at talking about this story. It's one of his favorite stories, so definitely go check out William's video on it. Speaking of William Dozer, he came out with his own book, and I read it. It's called Fumes. Now this book, it's incredibly short. It's like 70-something pages long. I read it in less than an hour, and I totally recommend reading this book. William does a good job at portraying his character Charlie. I know he's talked about how he wrote the story a lot on his channel, but somebody tell William about this video, because I want to talk to him about his book. William, I want you to give me more of this story. I really feel like this is just the beginning of something so much bigger. Like, reading it, I really thought, this is good, but there's more to this story than you wrote down, and I really would like to see more from you in the future. This is by far one of the most popular books in the last few years, for very good reasons. Both of its movie adaptations are incredibly popular. That would be Dune by Frank Herbert. How have you not read... I've said that multiple times, but seriously, how have you not read this book? Especially in this time, when the movies are so popular. I read it a week before the second movie came out, so I could get hype with my friends. We went and watched it in IMAX. Such a good movie. But the book is so good. And like I said, I finished it in less than a week, which some of you may be thinking, wow, that's a long time, but I read slower than you probably do, okay? Get off my case. Very good book. Not much I really need to say about it since it's such a popular topic, but totally recommend it. I picked up the sequel, Dune Messiah. This was probably the slowest I've ever read a book. It's incredibly short, but I just could not get through this book without being bored. I've listened to so many other people talk about this book, and they love it to death, so I'm gonna have to give it a reread in the future, but I just, I've got more things I need to do, more books that I want to read, so maybe I might give it a couple years. So, I mean, it was fine. If you want to see someone talk positively about it, go watch like Mike's book reviews or something, because he likes this book a lot more than I do. I couldn't convince you to read it because I didn't enjoy it as much as a lot of other people did. I am going to talk about this book for a while. This was insane. Child of God by Cormac McCarthy. I cannot tell you enough about this book. I'm going to make a longer video about it here on the channel, because there was just so much to unpack here. Lester Ballard, the main character, is insane. Literally, and in the term of, like, he's cool. That I'm talking about. There's just, like, if you read this book and you're like, wow, that was deranged and Lester is weird, I understand, and you may be thinking I'm a weirdo for liking this book, but I mean, once I make the video about this book in the future, you'll understand. There is so much to understanding how Lester Ballard's mind works that I want to talk about, and it was such a good read. It's incredibly short. You could read it in a day or two. Trigger warning real quick though. I would not recommend this book if you are easily upset by violent actions, because there's a lot of stuff in this book that some of the characters, McCarthy likes to be vivid, and he likes to write about pretty awful things that happen to people. So, coming up next is um, you saw it. I was trying to think of something to say before I showed you the book, but you saw it. 2001: A Space Odyssey by Arthur C. Clarke. This book was fine to say the least. Um, I'm not a big sci-fi fan. I think a lot of the things in a lot of sci-fi books are pretty confusing and weird, and I don't find it enjoyable to read about. But I was intrigued by the movie. I liked the movie quite a bit, and so I thought, if I want to make a video about this, I'm gonna have to read the book so I can actually understand what I'm talking about. And so I read the book, and it was a good book. I liked it. That's pretty much all I gotta say about it. I will save the contents of the book for a longer video. I started off my Stephen King journey this year. I know, right? Since reading this book, I have bought many Stephen King books. Not like his entire bibliography, but I've bought quite a few. And you may think, oh, he's about to show me Carrie or The Shining or Salem's Lot, one of the first couple that Stephen King ever wrote, but I did not because I'm weird and I hate taking people's advice. Instead, for my introduction to Stephen King, I chose The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon because I'm weird. The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. This was such a slog to read. Aside from Doom Messiah, this was the most annoying book I have probably ever read. I don't know why. There's just, a girl gets lost in the woods. There's a lot of stuff about baseball that I don't understand because I'm not a baseball fan like Stephen King is. And so, whatever. I mean, I just did not enjoy this book. There was one scene that was like 3 pages long that I liked. Other than that, I would never read this book again. So, if that tells you anything about it, the final book that I read in 2024, of course, after reading The Abomination that was The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, I had to read something that I knew King was more acclaimed for. So, I picked up The Shining. Stephen King is such a prolific and important writer, and people love him for all different kinds of reasons. And so I thought, well, I didn't like one King book, but since people love him so much, maybe I should try something else. So I picked The Shining because it's one of his most popular books. Oh boy. This was, don't get mad at me. If you're a diehard King fan, please don't try to kill me. This was a good book. That's all I gotta say about it. I won't say that it was the most amazing thing that I've ever read because it wasn't. But, it was a fun story. I was told by a lot of people, including, YouTubers, obviously, some friends, my dad, that this would be like the scariest thing I ever read, and I would want to lock it in a box before I went to sleep. It was not. This book was, well, when it comes to being scary, is okay at being scary. There is 2 parts that scared me. That was so if you don't want to hear like minor spoilers for the book, skip a couple seconds. Um, the scary scenes were like the bathtub scene, obviously, in the one room with the creepy old lady, and I don't even remember the other scene that scared me, but my favorite scene was the bar scene towards the end of the book where Jack's talking to Grady. I liked that scene quite a bit. The rest of the book was okay. I might reread it in the future. I probably will at some point. It's better than I'm saying it is, but I don't really know how to say what I feel about the book. I would give it a 7 out of 10. Well, there you have it. Every single book I read in 2024. I know it wasn't a lot, but hopefully this year I can read quite a bit more. I'm hoping so, anyways. I want to before I end this video, I just wanted to tell you about some of the ideas I have for the future of this channel. I just wanted to say that I don't get all the time in the world to make videos, and when I do, it's very little. Like, you know, I'm on a break from school right now, so that's why I got to film this video. And I've started projects like I've been writing scripts since summer, but videos I've started on 2001: A Space Odyssey, The Road, Blood Meridian, The Revenant, which is DiCaprio movie. I've thought about doing some video essays on music, like The Black Parade. So those are just some ideas for the future. And I just want to thank you all for sticking around, because I know I'm not as faithful and committed as a lot of other YouTubers are. But you know, they do it professionally and I just do it for fun. So that's my excuse, is I'm not making any money off of it. I've got a lot more important things than YouTube, and so YouTube usually takes a back seat. But I do enjoy making videos, even if they're shorts or just making community posts to keep up with my community. So I'm glad you guys are still here. I've lost quite a few subscribers. I just checked the other day. I lost like 5, which is fine. It's not a big deal to me anyways. But I just wanted to say thank you all. So hopefully I read more than just this stack. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Banjo out.